Listen, we really have to get our heads around this and realize that we've been sold a bill of goods. Even in the FIRE community, we've been told that it's okay to put aside freedom for a future reward, and what we instead need to be looking at is regaining our freedom. All right, so this video is about how to help people get financial independence. I'm seeing people all over the place tell their stories, and I know there's a lot of folks and there's a lot of people that are earning well over $100,000 a year, and that's fine. 6 figures, some even $200,000 a year, and some combined even more than that. If that's your lot in life, that's great. More power to you. But what about all the rest of the people? So if you're one of those in the rest of the people, you're going to want to listen to this ideas on being financial independent. I'm going to go over some of the things that some of these higher income FIRE people, we're going to glean some of the best parts, take what you like and leave the rest principle, right? And then we're going to transfer them into a scenario for people on, that are making less money. When you condense it down into a nutshell, you see people that make a decision that are in the higher income brackets, that they want off that treadmill. That's the first decision. So that can be transferred over regardless of what your income is making that decision. I want to get off the treadmill. That's number one, numero uno. The number two thing that happens, and remember we're condensing this conversation, is that they understand that they need to become frugal for the purposes of saving money. Now here's where things get a little bit more dicey, because you've got two sides. You've got people, earning well over $100,000 a year, and you've got people that aren't. And so sure, they can be frugal, but they just won't save as much. All right, so that's where we get stuck. But let me continue with the conversation. The next thing that happens is, for a certain period of time, people in the first group, the higher income group, start saving and investing a pretty reasonable amount of money. And over a period of time, which is different for different people depending on the vehicle they choose and how much they're saving, they reach a level where they're financially independent. Now, I recently watched a video about a couple that did that, and I like how they redefined the word work. And this is something that can be transferred over to the other group, the lower income group, is redefining the word work. So that's going to be next on the list. So we started with, we can transfer over the idea that we're going to get frugal and start saving money, but now we're going to also redefine the word work. Because what they did is they invested enough to replace their income, and yet they're still working. So that the goal doesn't become to be pure 100% living off money. Instead, they redefine the word work to mean that instead of working 48 weeks a year and only taking 4 weeks off, they now work 4 weeks a year and take 48 weeks off. So that's redefining work. But who's to say that a person can't be happy working 8 hours a week? Would you be happy working 8 hours a week instead of 50 hours a week? How about 12 hours a week? Would that be okay? Would you be happy working 12 hours a week? Would 2 hours a day be okay instead of, 8 or 10 hours a day? I think most people would agree that it would be. What about 15 or 20 hours? Would that be okay instead of 50 or 60 per week? I think, again, most people would agree. And so we want to get to that level where we're needing to make it a priority to redefine how we view the word work. Because listen, we really have to get our heads around this and realize that we've been sold a bill of goods. Even in the FIRE community, we've been told that it's okay to put aside freedom for a future reward, and what we instead need to be looking at is regaining our freedom. And I'm saying that we're living during times when this is even, the heat's getting turned on, and it's got to be at the top of your list. Freedom has got to be at the top of your priorities. And how you define freedom is different for every person. If a person really has to go for trying to only work 4 hours a week, that's one level of freedom. If a person can be happy working 10 hours a week or 20 hours a week, that's another level of freedom. Everybody chooses their level of freedom. So I'm going to give you some examples now, because you're probably going, well, I've heard of that, but that's not possible, or people are in misery, or they're dumpster diving, or this or that. But I personally know, I had a friend, and he started out when he was 55. He downsized his life. He bought himself a house, paid cash. This is really important, because a lot of people that do this, they want to put their trajectory on financial independence on steroids. They go into debt. Now, that's a different conversation. We encourage being completely out of debt, even for business debt. You look at businesses that fold, the ones that come crashing down are always all in debt. Now, it is mismanaged debt. I'm not saying you can't manage debt, but everybody has an opinion on debt. Our opinion is zero debt. That's our level. And that's very, very conservative. And it's conservative because that's what brings freedom. My friend bought himself a house. He did move from a big city to a lower cost of living area. He bought the house cash, so he had no mortgage, and he downsized his life. He only worked three days a week. He worked 3 days a week. They had a traditional home life. They had, his wife was a volunteer, but she didn't do anything to earn. She didn't have a job or anything. They were both together on this, and they lived simply. And he had a car, but he only drove it once a month, and most of the time he rode his bicycle. He provided a service and only worked 3 days a week. And he did this from when he was 55 all the way up until he was 70. And that's one example. I know, and I've seen another guy on YouTube. He lives in a tiny house. He's only paid a total of $10,000 for it. He paid $5,000 for the lot and $5,000 to fix up a little tiny house on it. And he makes videos. I mean, that's another guy, that lives a financially independent lifestyle. And, how many hours a week does it take? I mean, I know a lot of people turn it into a full-time job, but really, you don't have to. There are so many things. There was another story of the same couple that I was mentioning earlier that was in the high income group, but even they themselves are still working managing property. Here's another thing. The wife works 1 month out of the year, and she sells insurance or something, and she makes $23,000 in 1 month. I mean, that's pretty amazing. I mean, think about it. If you were not in debt, what you could do, if you could figure out your own groove on something like that. So I'm not giving you an exact prescription on exactly what to do. I'm giving you examples of different lifestyles. Another guy I heard of that was selling hot dogs of all things. He had a hot dog cart in a fishing tournament in Alaska, which was very seasonal, obviously, in Alaska. And I think within 4 or 5, or I don't know if it was even 6 months, I think it was more like 4 months in the season, he made a year's worth of income doing that. So if a person can figure out their groove on something like this, and perhaps you could do just one thing, or you could do a combination of things and simplify your life. And that's the thing that people on a high income learn to do anyway. When they set their mind that they're going to become financially independent, the first thing they do is they get frugal. And over a period of years, because they have to put in the time in order to save and invest, so that they have to be frugal over a period of time, and it becomes ingrained. Frugality becomes ingrained in their lifestyle. That's what I'm saying. Then once they become financially independent, they remain frugal because they realize how smart it is to be smart frugal and to seek value in life rather than to be a wasteful consumer. At this day and age, they realize that being a wasteful consumer is what kept them on a treadmill to begin with. And so they don't want to get back on a treadmill. And so frugality is central to the piece. We're just transferring these ideas over to someone that is in the second group of a smaller income. And instead of relying on large amounts of savings and investments, we're relying on the understanding that there is a groove there that you can achieve that fits you and what makes you happy. And it's important to not let other people define what freedom is for you. I mean, I was having a conversation in the forum the other day saying how it's possible to live on a certain, very small amount, and you know, a person was correcting me, no, it has to be at least this much. Well, that's their interpretation. Don't let anybody else tell you, you know, how you would find value and what would give you happiness in life. I mean, that's why we don't talk about figures, because when you say a figure, it portrays an image in somebody's mind of what they can do with that figure. It has nothing to do with what you can do with that figure or what I can do with that figure. Longtime followers of our channel know that we've been able to do things like nomad around Europe on $1,400 or less per month, and we could do it indefinitely. We said we could, and we could literally do that just about anywhere, and there are methods and techniques of doing that. That's all I'm saying here. So when we watch these financial independence videos and listen to people talk, are we listening for the golden nugget that's going to give us freedom, or are we looking for a blueprint of other people telling us what's going to make us happy? Like, you have to, you know, go to the bank and you have to earn $150,000 a year, and all these things that perhaps don't apply to your life, and you're just in a different spot in life than other people. And so I'm telling you that you don't have to be there, and you don't have to feel bad, and regardless what your lot in life is, if you are somebody that is at that level, that is earning the high six figures or good six figures, well over 100,000 a year, then understand that you could manage also your money so much better than you do now. And there are so many different ways of doing things. You know, a lot of times people think, well, I'll just buy a house and I'll, you know, that's an investment. But living in a house can be an investment. There are ways to turn it into an investment only when we understand the principles that we've just discussed in this video about seeking freedom. Because what happens when the market turns and your down payment starts disintegrating and you're stuck into a high mortgage? A high mortgage payment is not freedom.
Well, what about if they buy a house that's not on credit from the bank?
Now, we bought our house cash. That's how we had the retire early lifestyle for all of those years. So that's my point there, because when you're in debt, you are not in control. If things beyond your control change, now you have an obligation. You see, it's a long-term commitment. That's what a mortgage is. It's a long-term commitment that is being applied towards what I call a short-term scenario, which is what your daily life is. It's a short-term scenario in the sense that we live only one day at a time, and we can only control one day at a time. We don't have any control over what you know, what's going to happen next month or next year. People can talk about things, and they can talk about what's happening and what might happen, but we don't have any control. You know, whether we lose our job, for example, or whether interest rates go higher, or whether the real estate market goes down. And if you have you know, a long-term commitment, then you can get caught with your back against the wall. So I've laid out at least a handful of ways to simplify your life and gain freedom. And I'm saying that right now it's really important to start thinking about freedom because of what's going on in the background that has started with, you know, ever since 2020. It's even more important than ever to start focusing on things and ways that you can gain your freedom. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for coming to the channel, and have a wonderful day.